During the course of the week, I believe it was very early in the week, after a lot of introspection, I came to an inevitable conclusion. At least I believed it was time for you to hear it. We can't vote our way out of the mess we're in. It's completely impossible. It is impossible to vote our way out of the current mess. But because I don't want to be derailed, I will not speak at length to that subject. It's probably going to be the topic for my sermon next Sunday. But today, to lay the foundation for that argument, I believe it is critical to do this one. And I have titled it, Nigeria, the State of the States. In a more developed society, in a true country, my title should have been perhaps Nigeria, the State of the Union, or the State of the Nation. But the reality is that Nigeria is anything but a nation. It is even hardly a country. Nigeria is a state without citizens. But it is critical that we examine the state of this state, this dystopian nightmare that we call our country, the land of our birth, and in most cases, the land of our captivity. And that you have escaped does not mean that you have escaped the captivity of Nigeria, because Nigeria is insidious. It lives in you, it's inside of you. Some of you are in Finland. I know some. There is a gentleman always coming in from the UK, somewhere around, I think, somewhere in London. I see him Anslo sometimes. He tells me, oh, he's here from Anslo. They are the ones who are most current about what is going on in Nigeria, because Nigeria eats into you. Even when you've escaped, you can't really escape Nigeria. So it is critical that we examine the state of the states of what is essentially the prison of our lives, whether that's the physical or mental. Nigeria is essentially a prison for the Nigerian. It is not a country. It is not a homeland. It's not a motherland or a fatherland. It fathers nobody, and it's certainly not a mother unless they're talking about murderers. So at the end of the day, Nigeria has a territory, but it has no citizens. That is the unfortunate reality of Nigeria. So if we say Nigeria has territory, but it has no citizens, you will recall, if you spent any length of time in my space, that I have taken time to explain why, in spite of the fact that you hold a passport that declares you a citizen, in actuality, you are not. I've tried to explain this in the past, but for the benefit of those of you who are just joining us for the first time, let me be clear. You can only speak to the fact of citizenship in spaces that are governed by law. If the law does not rule in a space, you really cannot speak to citizenship, because citizenship is undergirded by the declaration and actuality of equality before the law, equal access to justice, the rule of law, which means that even the state and its agencies are subject to the rule of law. That is when you can speak to citizenship. So unfortunately, the Nigerian is not a citizen because the law does not rule in the Nigerian space. So let's now deal with the actuality of Nigeria one by one. What is the state of the Nigerian state? A state functions first based on the rule that has been agreed to administer that space. In Nigeria, we are lacking in any such laws. What pretends to be a constitution in Nigeria is Decree 24 of 1999. it declares falsely that we, the people of Nigeria, there was no time that any such thing happened. So let's settle that first of all. But that charter, as fraudulent as it is, even though it was enforced and forced on each and every one of us, what does it say about the governance of the Nigerian state? It clearly recognizes three divisions of the state, the three hands of government. It speaks to the legislative arm, it speaks to the judiciary, and it speaks directly to the executive. It sets out their powers and it delineates their functions. So if we're examining the state of the Nigerian state, how about we look at the state of its legislature? Let's start with the Senate. At the head of our Senate sits a man who is on record one of the most corrupt persons in the history of governance in Nigeria. He is the Senate President of Nigeria today, Senator Akpabio. To get him into that seat, multiple laws were broken, but each and every one of them were, of course, upheld by the body charged with interpreting our laws, the judiciary. So you've got a problem that is already ensconced in legislative arm. And if I'm speaking to Akpabio, it's merely as a metaphor for the whole, for the collective. I spare none. Labour Party, PDP, APC, whatever, they are all the same. Once they are in that place, it is clear that this has become a clear battle of we and them. Because when they get into that place, the first thing you need to ask yourself is this: what are they doing there? As urgent as our issues are, the legislators found time to approve all kinds of horrible, wicked expenditures, and they were praying monies into mail boxes to cushion the hardship of those who are already living the buttered life. In a season when, in one sentence, a man unelected by us but forced upon us had declared hardship, summarily removing subsidy. I don't know who is subsidizing who, we subsidizing them, but they removed subsidy. In the midst of all of this, while Nigerians were still groaning with no palliative of any sort in sight, they were making fun of the poor. Let the poor breathe. That is the state of the legislature, completely useless and unfit for purpose. The only thing the legislature is doing is taking care of their own kind, provision and appropriating monies to ensure that the rulers are kept in style. So, the legislature is of no use to me and you. The diarrhea of the monkey has proven not to be the concern of the baboon as far as the legislators are concerned. So, let's look at our executive. Executive. The only thing that rings true in that word is the last syllable, thieves. That is all that rings true, because all they do is steal blindly, mindlessly. They are completely shorn of vision, and I'm not talking just about the one that is sat at the top. It's a pyramid of thieves. That the best of them sits at the top of it does not make any difference, because there are little or no exceptions wherever you turn, from local government chairmen all the way to the presidency. Governance is not about the people. It is about keeping the power, the rulers, in power and in luxury. So the state of our nation is that today, I use that horrible word. The state of our state today It's simple. The man who is the sum of the parts of each and every one of our winners is the one that is sat at the top of the pile today. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or the man known as Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has a lot of baggages around his neck. But I will go as far as to say that there is no president that has sat in that office that didn't carry one bit or the other, or something similar to what this one is carrying. So if you focus on this person, yes, it's very odious. You will be missing the point. The point is that the system can only produce the worst because the system is designed to produce exactly that. That is why you find them binding together to produce the very best of them. Let me share something with you. In the days before his coronation, I was writing a piece and I titled it "The Nigerian Jollof." And the argument I was making in that piece is that just as the best part of the ingredients, the flavors, the condiments, goes to the base of the jollof, that is how the worst of us are the ones that rises into government offices. And in this case, the very worst of the worst is the one that has become our president. But he is us. That is the sad reality. He is us. That is who we have become. Those you would have expected to stand up as vanguards of society, your pastors, your imams, leaders of thought, yesterday's men who spoke truth to power, who would have yelled themselves hoarse if this was someone else. They all found the grace. In some cases, they didn't just keep quiet, they deodorized the skunk. So he is us. That is the state of our nation. A certificate forger, identity thief, drug money launderer, somebody of no provenance sits in our highest office. And the reality of the matter is that that is who we are. Is the sum of all of our parts. We may kick against it from now to kingdom come. And yes, I know we didn't elect him. I'm not suggesting we did, but our society has tolerated it. We've accepted it. Our judiciary, each and every one of those black-robed people that you see wearing wigs, from the lowest of them to the top, they endorse that. That is who we are. That is the state of our states. From the youngest lawyer to the highest, the Sansan to the new wig, that is who we are. When history is written, and generations from now, they read of the place called Nigeria, and remember by then, no FBI file is kept secret forever. So what we knew, even when there were no files out in the open, we know enough as a people, if we were actually a people consumed by virtues, possessed of shame, this wouldn't have happened, but this is who we are, and that is where we are. So today, the state of our executives is that we have thieves, legally ensconced in power. But I have not talked about our judiciary. You know, I am told that the judiciary, in fact, we recited it so many times, it became a mantra. The judiciary is the last hope of the common man. Common man. See this guy behind me. Yeah, in the portrait. Those of you who've heard the story before, you know, I bought the drawing somewhere in Abuja. I was captivated by the look in the eye of the subject, deviance. he pushes a wheelbarrow, and he was taking a break from his labor when the artist captured the image. So he sat in his wheelbarrow. You can't see the eye, but the eye, there is defiance in his eye. Dignity of labor. He is what you call the common man. And then you say to him that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. So it means that when you might have taken everything else away from him, he is left with the hope that he will be able to stand before a judge, some impartial arbiter who will deliver justice to him. The judiciary is the last hope of the common man. That is what the saying goes. You'll find multiple references in the Bible where God exalted judges to do justice. Same thing in the Quran. Every religious tradition holds judges in the highest of esteem. I once read the story of some ruler. I believe it was a Persian ruler who caught his chief judge in the act of stealing and was going to execute him. But he asked him to ask one favor before he was going to be killed. And CJ said, okay, can you please make my son my successor? And the ruler said, okay, no problem. He will succeed you. So he had him killed. And the day they were going to swear in the new CJ, they gave him, the ruler gave him a seat. Told him, this is your official chair. But guess what? The chair was made from the skin of his executed father. That's a true story, by the way. Maybe if something like that happens in Nigeria, some people would understand the importance of doing justice. It does not surprise me, and I am not pained, because I have warned you multiple times about the reality of the fact that our judiciary is no different from our police or our custom. But it was critical that you went through the process, and I was one of those who insisted within the Obi campaign that we must go through the court process, because it was critical that the courts be completely exposed as the fraudulent bastion of corruption that it has become, so that that last hope is taken away from you and you understand very clearly that there is no hope in the Nigerian judiciary. Let us be clear. So I'll leave that for my closing. So the state of the Nigerian judiciary, and it's not something that happened during the election cycle. It's been there. It's been like that. Long before Bola Ahmed Tinubu showed up in the presidential election, the Nigerian judiciary had been sufficiently lost. Don't take my word for it. Olumide Akpata was busy at the International Bar Association conference. That's the former MPA chairman. He was busy. He had a lot to say. You might want to go take a listen. And then there was Justice Datijo, 47 years in the judiciary. There's nothing I have to say today that he didn't say already at his own valedictory. I had an interview with Arise TV long before there was a Peter Obi presidential bid. And I was asked a specific question, my opinion of the current CJN of Nigeria. I was clear in declaring his incapacity to deliver anything close to justice. And my reasons were very simple and straightforward. He's incapable of doing so, either for a reason of corruption or incompetence. He has no capacity to deliver justice. There was no Peter Obi at the time. So do not politicize what I'm saying today. So let us be clear. What I am saying is that there is a complete failure of governance, and we're steering a failed state in the eye. But beyond the legislative arm, beyond the executive Beyond the judiciary, there is a society. Societies are undergirded by multiple institutions. You have the religious institutions. You have the traditional institutions. We have theater, we have music. What has happened? Let's take them one by one. The traditional institution has proven itself to be particularly susceptible to the shenanigans of those holding power in Nigeria. And the reason is simple. Since the beginning of colonial rule in Nigeria, the authority of the institution, the traditional institution, has been completely eroded. In most cases, lost. So what you find is that our traditional institutions, even in areas where they existed, I'm not talking about areas where they were creating warrant chiefs and igwes, have become largely appendages of government. So an Oba is functionally ruling at the pleasure of the local government chairman. And then the elective and appointive process has assured that what you get are those who are going to be pliable and malleable. They will do as they are told by the political masters who appoints them. It's even gotten worse now. You're having governors' PAs appointed as Obas, governors' friends appointed as Obas. The Obas do as they are told, and so do Obis and Igwes. And if anybody is thinking that the emirs are any different, you fool yourselves. Abacha proved it. Remember Dasuki? He removed him just to prove that he or anyone in power as the president of Nigeria who understands the power relationship and dynamics can reduce the traditional institutions to exactly what they are, government appointees. In spite of that, you find men and women of good character who have risen above these and are still able to speak by sheer force of their own personality and the capacity of that society to preserve its traditional institution. That is why you find the Omonoba Nedo able to speak with degrees of respect because his people have infused him with respect. How do you speak of respect about some Obas who will be found plotting people's deaths? I speak to a personal experience, so I have no apology for that. So your traditional institutions have become essentially appendages and reflections of the executive and of the society itself. Agberos, the base of the society, worse criminals. Those are the people being enthroned, and then you hear all kinds of nonsense issuing forth from their mouths. So let's be clear. There is no traditional institution able to challenge the insanity that has overtaken our country because they have also been compromised. What about the religious institutions? Don't even let's talk about those ones. It is pathetic in the extreme. I was speaking with a pastor friend a few months ago, and when I assail pastors, be clear about something. I have a lot of friends who are Christians and who are pastors whom I respect and whose truth I clap for. Pastor Ahidogmo is one. I never tire of mentioning his name. I was speaking with a friend, and one of the things I said was, every time you find a truth, you will find that you are incapable of separating that truth from God. Because every truth is immortal. The quality of immortality that is embedded in truth is exactly what makes truth godly. But you will go to our churches, you will go to our mosques, and you hear no truths. And even in recent time, they started pressing the traditional Isheshe worshipper into the politics of internal colonization. Orojide Sanwo-Olu was battered by the Oro, under whose guise he was forced on us. So it is not an unfair assessment to make that even the traditional institution is being frog-marched into the fraudulence of the Nigerian state. The ethnic nationalism that is being cloaked in Isheshe must be clear to those who are practitioners, genuine practitioners of Isheshe. A few of you who are familiar with me knows I'm curious about our Isheshe and I'm trying to study and understand and learn. But I see how they are trying to hide behind Isheshe to foster political interest. So the religious institution is already being compromised. How about theater? Remember that idiot, the one that was busy bathing naked at the bar beach? That's theater. Yes, there are exceptions, but that's the normal. Music, Inko. How many of today's musicians, and I know there are a few, but how many can we listen to the way we listen to Fela and catch inspirations and understanding of civic education? How many? How many? Not too many. Beautiful Nubia, God bless you, my brother. Well, how many? How many others can one speak to? What's the agenda? What's the move? So, fact of the matter is, the Nigerian state is failing, and we are facing and looking at state failure. That is the state of our state. This morning, I had a clip sent to me. I haven't seen the entire skit, but I saw a clip. I believe the clip is just a little over a minute long. Some Nigerian comedian playing somewhere in Europe. And he was talking, he shared his experience. I shared these on my social media site. The critical thing is that there have been two sets of reactions. Some are like, why is he washing our dirty linen outside? Others are like, Nigeria is finished. I think the truth is somewhere between those extremes. During the Holocaust, the Jews found reasons to laugh at themselves in the midst of their tragedy. They made jokes, very dark jokes, about the gas chamber, about being turned into soap. Yeah. It's the human way of coping with tragedy. I looked at the comedian and I saw pain behind his jokes. The pain I saw behind his joke is not unlike the one I have seen in the eyes of each and every one of the Nigerians I have met in my travels abroad. They would rather be back in Nigeria. You see a whole lot of people come back in a few weeks' time, they'll be shouting dirty December. Yeah, but when that dirty December is done, when they're back where they're gone, where they come from, you know what happens? They miss the energy, they miss the country, but they are left in pain, not necessarily because they can't find their way back, but the reality of what awaits is unpalatable. Let's be clear about something. If we're going to treat any ailment, it is critical that you correctly diagnose it. I have deliberately spent time working on diagnosis. I have patiently worked with you, not because to be very frank with you, and those of you who have read the imperatives will be very much aware of this, and if you followed me for any length of time, you will know that I wasn't wearing blinkers going into the last electoral cycle. But that electoral cycle was critical on multiple levels. Asking you to go and register to vote was to reconnect you to the system. It was to get you involved. Even when I was telling you to go and register to vote, I could have told you exactly what would happen up until the Supreme Court. And I did. Go read the imperatives. But it was critical that you be asked to register, because it is critical that your last hope be taken away, your last hope in the system, your capacity to believe that some change is possible working with this system. That was critical. You had to feel the pain. You had to be connected to hope. You had to be connected to hope. You had to be taken through the process of voters registration, collection of your PVC, in spite of the resistance of the system. It was critical that we connected you, because without you being connected, you will not be as aggrieved as you feel right now, and you will not have come to the knowledge of the fact that you cannot redeem this system by working within this system. I believe it was Brother Nkrumah that said something along the line of, revolutions are brought about by men of thought who act as men of action. The thought was the identification of the problem that you needed to be connected. You've been connected, and now your hearts have been broken because your hopes have been dashed. Good. Now that your hopes have been dashed in the system, it's not sufficient for you to throw up your hands and be like, what can we do? And then some of you will be like, okay, we'll go and prepare for 2027. Rubbish. If you like, prepare for 2030. It's not making any difference. This man hasn't spent a year. They're already installing party loyalists inside INEC, as if they don't hold INEC already. So what are you preparing for in 2027? This is not a pro-democracy struggle. It's a liberation struggle. Next week, we'll be talking about how to find our ways out of this. Alternatives to getting there without violence. Because there is where we have to get. Make no mistake about it. It will take nothing short of a revolution to save us. But that revolution must be deliberately peaceful. Deliberately peaceful. Deliberately. That it hasn't been done before does not mean it cannot be done. This system will prefer that we are violent. Nigeria loves violence, either because it will match the violence and surpass it, or because it will use that violence to delegitimize a just struggle. How we come out of this, we would all have to figure it out together. But we cannot vote our way out of this mess. There's an entire section in the imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution. I said this much last week. It's written by my good friend Taiwo Akinlami, and it speaks to non-violent struggle. We have no control over what the states will do, but we are the ones in control of what we would do. We get to decide whether we are going to throw stones. We get to decide whether we are going to even come out onto any street. We decide that, and it is not beyond our capacities as sentient beings with brains to devise our way out of the mess we are in. Intellectual indolence will lead you to believe that the only way is to start riots, and the system will prefer that you interpret what I'm saying in those light. But that is not what I'm saying. Only the system profits by violence. Prepare yourselves. There are methods ranging from sit-at-homes to simply even deciding on a particular day, let everybody wear red, just to signify how we feel about our country. Build the solidarity slowly, deliberately. Let's get to the point where we make it clear to the system and to ourselves just exactly how displeased we are with the way we are. Yorubas have this proverb, and I'll close with that. They say, one wo lawo sunkún, one dem wora won lawo rẹ́rìn. They behold us with tears, and we behold ourselves with merriment. What I've just shown you, or tried to show you, is but a piece of how the world sees us. We're seen essentially for what we are, a failed state, run by crooks, devoid of justice, peopled by cowards who appear incapable of doing anything to free themselves from their sorry state. I am none of those things. And I know you aren't as well. And yes, we would have to go beyond all this dogon trenching that we are speaking on social media. Speak to those you come into contact with on a daily basis. Every person you get the opportunity to enlighten is a soldier in the army of your liberation. Move beyond the divisions and the hates, because those who profit from where we are, they are united. Let's stop dividing ourselves. I hope you heard me. I do hope that you heard me. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your week. If I had the power to tell, don't let me get into that religious thing. I'm not telling any son to stop somewhere. So, gentlemen, ladies, enjoy the rest of your week. Be blessed. God bless you.